Millionaire woman invites her housekeeper to a gala. What the maid did there stunned the guests. Eleanor Whitmore adjusts the diamond necklace around her neck as she prepares for the most exclusive charity gala of the Manhattan social season. At 58, she commands respect in high society circles, her fortune built from a chain of luxury hotels inherited from her late husband. Her Park Avenue penthouse reflects her status: crystal chandeliers, original Monet paintings, and furniture that costs more than most people's homes. But this evening feels different. For the past 3 months, Eleanor has been quietly observing someone who has worked in her home for over a decade: Maria Santos, her housekeeper. What started as casual notice has evolved into genuine curiosity about the woman who has been nearly invisible in her daily life. Maria arrives each morning at precisely 7 o'clock. A small, unassuming woman in her early 50s with calloused hands and kind eyes. She moves through Eleanor's vast penthouse like a ghost, cleaning, organizing, and maintaining the pristine environment that Eleanor's lifestyle demands. But recently, Eleanor has begun to notice things that don't quite fit the typical profile of domestic help. There are books hidden in Maria's cleaning supplies, not romance novels or magazines, but advanced texts on art history, classical music theory, and European literature. Eleanor discovered them by accident when looking for extra towels in the supply closet. The books are worn, annotated in precise handwriting, with notes scribbled in multiple languages including French, Italian, and what appears to be Latin. More intriguing are the subtle changes Maria makes to Eleanor's home that go beyond cleaning. Fresh flowers appear in arrangements that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of color theory and composition. Classical music plays softly from Maria's small radio, always perfectly suited to the mood and lighting of each room. Even the way Maria folds linens shows an artistic sensibility that speaks to training far beyond domestic work. Eleanor finds herself creating excuses to be home during Maria's working hours, pretending to make phone calls while actually watching this mysterious woman work. She notices how Maria pauses before certain paintings, studying them with the intensity of a curator. How she hums along to complex symphonies with perfect pitch. How she handles Eleanor's antique books with the reverence of someone who truly understands their value. The most puzzling discovery comes when Eleanor finds a sketch left behind in the library, a detailed drawing of the room's architecture rendered with professional skill. The perspective is perfect, the shading sophisticated, and the signature in the corner reads M. Santos in elegant script that suggests formal artistic training. Eleanor's curiosity reaches a tipping point when she overhears Maria speaking on the phone during her lunch break. The conversation is in fluent French, discussing what sounds like complex art authentication procedures. Maria's voice carries an authority and expertise that seems completely at odds with her role as domestic help. That evening, Eleanor makes an impulsive decision that surprises even herself. She calls Maria into the living room and extends an invitation that will change both their lives forever. The annual Met Museum Gala, a $1,000 per plate charity event supporting arts education, is happening in 3 days. Eleanor's usual companion, her socialite friend Vivian, has fallen ill with pneumonia. Rather than find another member of her social circle to accompany her, Eleanor asks Maria to be her guest. Maria's reaction is telling. Instead of the starstruck gratitude Eleanor might expect from someone being offered access to Manhattan's most exclusive social event, Maria appears conflicted, almost apprehensive. She asks thoughtful questions about the event's purpose, the charities being supported, and the expected dress code. Her concerns aren't about fitting in socially, but about the appropriateness of her presence at such a gathering. Eleanor insists, offering to provide appropriate attire and reassuring Maria that her presence would be genuinely welcomed. What Eleanor doesn't reveal is her growing suspicion that there's far more to Maria Santos than meets the eye. And this gala might be the perfect opportunity to uncover the mystery. The next 2 days are spent in preparation. Eleanor takes Maria to her personal stylist, a discreet woman who has dressed Manhattan's elite for decades. As Maria is fitted for an elegant black evening gown, Eleanor observes how naturally she moves in formal wear, how instinctively she understands the subtle rules of high fashion presentation. At the jewelry selection, Maria's knowledge becomes even more apparent. She discusses the historical significance of different gemstone cuts, identifies the probable origins of various pieces, and demonstrates an understanding of jewelry craftsmanship that impresses even Eleanor's longtime stylist. When asked how she knows so much, Maria simply smiles and mentions that she's always been interested in beautiful things. The evening of the gala arrives with all the pageantry Manhattan's cultural elite can muster. The Metropolitan Museum's Great Hall has been transformed into a glittering wonderland, with tables adorned in gold and crystal, and walls lined with priceless artwork on loan from private collections around the world. Eleanor and Maria arrive. Together, Eleanor in her signature emerald green silk gown, Maria in understated black that somehow makes her appear more elegant than flashy. As they enter the reception area, Eleanor notices how Maria's eyes immediately catalog the artwork surrounding them, her gaze moving with the practiced efficiency of someone trained to assess and appreciate fine art. The guest list reads like a who's who of New York society, museum directors, gallery owners, prominent collectors, artists, and philanthropists who shape the cultural landscape of the city. Eleanor introduces Maria simply as her friend, offering no explanation of their relationship or background. What happens next defies every expectation. Eleanor had about the evening. As cocktails are served and guests mingle in the museum's sculpture garden, a commotion develops near one of the featured displays, a recently acquired Renaissance painting that was the centerpiece of the evening's auction preview. The museum's chief curator appears distressed, huddled in intense conversation with several board members and what appears to be an insurance representative. Eleanor and Maria drift closer to overhear the conversation. The painting, purchased for $12 million just weeks earlier, is now being questioned by a visiting expert from the Louvre who noticed inconsistencies in the brushwork and aging patterns. If the piece is determined to be a forgery, it would represent not just a financial disaster for the museum, but a catastrophic blow to the reputations of everyone involved in its acquisition. The crowd of wealthy patrons watches with morbid fascination, as experts are called in via speakerphone, attempting to resolve the authentication crisis. The tension in the room is palpable. Many of these same people have similar pieces in their private collections, and the implications of a sophisticated forgery entering the market are staggering. It's at this moment that Maria Santos steps forward and quietly asks if she might examine the painting more closely. The request sends ripples of surprise through the gathered crowd. Eleanor feels her cheeks flush with embarrassment, certain that Maria is about to make a social gaffe that will reflect poorly on both of them. Several prominent guests exchange amused glances, clearly viewing this as an entertaining moment of presumption from someone who obviously doesn't belong in such refined company. But the museum's chief curator, desperate for any potential insight, agrees to let Maria approach the painting. What happens next will transform not only the evening, but everything Eleanor thought she knew about the woman who has quietly maintained her home for over a decade. Maria moves toward the painting with the confidence of someone who has spent countless hours in the world's greatest museums. She doesn't touch the canvas, but her eyes trace every brushstroke, every crack in the aged surface, every detail of the composition with the intensity of a trained professional. After several minutes of silent examination, Maria steps back and begins to speak. Her voice carries a quiet authority that silences the murmurs of the crowd and commands the attention of every expert in the room. The chapter ends with Maria's assessment hanging in the air, and Eleanor realizing that her decision to bring her housekeeper to this exclusive gala has revealed a secret that will change both their lives forever. Maria's voice cuts through the tension in the Metropolitan Museum's Great Hall with surgical precision. She points to a specific area of the painting where the brushwork appears inconsistent with the attributed artist's known technique. Her analysis is detailed, technical, and delivered with the confidence of someone who has spent years studying Renaissance art. Authentication. She explains that the cracking pattern in the paint is artificially induced rather than naturally aged, pointing out microscopic details that even the museum's experts had missed. Her knowledge of pigment composition, canvas preparation techniques, and the specific artistic methods of the attributed master demonstrates expertise that leaves the gathered crowd speechless. The chief curator listens with growing amazement as Maria identifies not just that the painting is a forgery, but likely when it was created, what materials were used to age it artificially, and even suggests who might have been capable of producing such a sophisticated fake. Her assessment is so thorough and authoritative that the Louvre expert on speakerphone asks to know her credentials. Eleanor watches in stunned silence as the woman she thought she knew transforms before her eyes. This isn't her quiet housekeeper offering an opinion. This is clearly an expert with years of professional training, speaking with the authority of someone who has dedicated their life to understanding art. The room erupts in whispered conversations as guests realize they've just witnessed something extraordinary. The museum's board members huddle with the chief curator, discussing Maria's assessment and the implications for their recent acquisition. Meanwhile, several prominent collectors approach Maria directly, asking for her opinion on pieces in their own collections. Eleanor feels as though she's watching a stranger inhabit Maria's body. The transformation is complete. Posture, voice, mannerisms, even the way Maria holds herself has changed. This is clearly someone who belongs in this world of high art and cultural sophistication, not someone who should be cleaning Eleanor's floors each morning. As the evening progresses, Maria becomes the center of attention in ways that Eleanor never anticipated. Gallery owners seek her opinion on upcoming exhibitions. Museum directors ask about her background and availability for consulting work. Collectors invite her to examine pieces they're considering for purchase. Through these conversations, fragments of Maria's true story begin to emerge. She speaks casually about training at the Sorbonne, mentions research she conducted at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, and references authentication work she's done for private collectors across Europe. Each detail adds another layer to the mystery of who Maria Santos really is. Eleanor finds herself relegated to the sidelines of conversations, watching as her housekeeper, or whoever this woman really is, navigates the complex social and professional dynamics of Manhattan's art world with effortless skill. The evening has turned upside down in ways Eleanor never could have imagined. The most shocking revelation comes when Dr. Harrison Webb, the director of the Frick collection, recognizes Maria and approaches her with obvious delight. Their conversation reveals that Maria isn't just knowledgeable about art, she's Dr. Maria Santos de la Croix, one of the world's most respected art authentication experts, who mysteriously disappeared from the international art scene over a decade ago. Dr. Webb's recognition triggers a cascade of memories from other guests who now recall Maria's reputation. She was once the go-to expert for authentication of Renaissance and Baroque masterpieces, consulted by major museums, auction houses, and private collectors worldwide. Her disappearance had been one of the art world's most puzzling mysteries. Eleanor learns that Maria had been at the height of her career when she vanished from public life following a personal tragedy. Her husband, also an art historian, had been killed in a car accident in Rome while they were researching a major exhibition together. Devastated, unable to continue the work that reminded her of their shared passion, Maria had quietly left the art world behind. The reason Maria took work as a housekeeper becomes heartbreakingly clear. She needed to support herself but couldn't bear to remain in the art world that held so many memories of her late husband. Domestic work allowed her to disappear completely from her former life, while still maintaining some connection to beautiful things through Eleanor's collection, but her expertise never truly left her. The books Eleanor discovered weren't casual reading. They were Maria keeping current with developments in her field. The sketches were exercises to maintain her artistic eye. The careful attention to Eleanor's art collection wasn't just cleaning, it was professional assessment and care. As the evening reaches its climax, the museum's board makes an unprecedented announcement. Based on Maria's authentication expertise, they're withdrawing the questionable Renaissance painting from auction and launching a full investigation into its provenance. More importantly, they're inviting Dr. Maria Santos de la Cruz to join their authentication committee as a consulting expert. The offer represents more than just professional recognition. It's an invitation for Maria to reclaim her place in the world she abandoned over a decade ago. The room falls silent as everyone waits for her response. Maria looks across the crowd to Eleanor, seeing in her employer's eyes a mixture of shock, betrayal, and something else, perhaps understanding. Eleanor realizes that Maria's quiet presence in her home wasn't just about cleaning and organizing. Maria had been surrounded by art and beauty, things that connected her to her former life and the husband she lost. Eleanor finds herself face to face with a moral dilemma she never anticipated. She could feel betrayed that Maria hid her true identity, or she could understand that sometimes people need to disappear from who they were in order to survive. Devastating loss. In a moment that surprises everyone, including herself, Eleanor steps forward and addresses the crowd. She explains that she's known Maria for over 10 years, not as Dr. Santos de la Cruz, but as someone who brought quiet intelligence and care to everything she touched. She vouches for Maria's character and integrity, emphasizing that her decision to step away from her former career was an act of self-preservation, not deception. Eleanor's endorsement carries significant weight in these social circles. Her reputation for good judgment and her obvious genuine affection for Maria influences how the crowd perceives this revelation. Rather than viewing Maria as someone who deceived them about her identity, they begin to see her as someone who showed tremendous strength in rebuilding her life after devastating loss. Maria accepts the museum's offer, but with conditions that reflect the wisdom she's gained during her years away from the spotlight. She'll work as a consulting expert, but she wants to focus particularly on authentication training programs for young art historians. She wants to ensure that the next generation has better tools for identifying forgeries and protecting the integrity of art collections. The evening concludes with an outcome neither Eleanor nor Maria could have anticipated. Eleanor realizes that she's gained not just a housekeeper services over the past decade, but the friendship of one of the world's most accomplished art experts. Maria recognizes that her time working in Eleanor's home wasn't just about survival, it was about healing and preparing for her eventual return to the work she loves. As they leave the gala together, Eleanor and Maria walk as equals for the first time. Eleanor understands now why her art collection always seemed to be maintained with such extraordinary care, why her home always felt more beautiful and thoughtfully arranged than simple cleaning could achieve. The story ends with Maria returning to work in Eleanor's penthouse, but everything has changed. She's no longer hiding from her expertise. Instead, she's using Eleanor's home as a base for her new consulting work. Eleanor has become not just an employer, but a patron and friend supporting Maria's return to the art world. Eleanor's decision to invite her housekeeper to a high society gala had been motivated by curiosity about someone she thought she barely knew. Instead, it became the catalyst for Maria to reclaim a career and identity she thought she had lost forever. The evening proved that appearances can be profoundly deceiving, that class boundaries are often more fluid than they appear, and that sometimes the most extraordinary people are hiding in plain sight. Maria's stunning revelation at the gala didn't just authenticate a painting, it authenticated the power of human resilience and the possibility of second chances. Eleanor learned that true elegance isn't about wealth or social status, but about the quiet dignity of someone who maintains their integrity and expertise even in the most challenging circumstances. And Maria discovered that running from grief doesn't require abandoning everything you love. Sometimes it just means finding a different way to express the same passion. Their relationship, transformed by one evening's revelations, became proof that the most meaningful connections often develop in the most unexpected ways, and that recognizing someone's true worth sometimes requires looking beyond the roles they play in our daily lives.
Thank you for watching this story unfold with us here on M&A The Story Unfolds. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. We'd love to know where you're watching. Leave a comment below and tell us what part of the world you're joining us from. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.